Welcome again, everybody, to the ABCs of Good Clinical Practice, GCPs, and the 13 Principles of ICH. I'm Gary Freeman, and I have over 30 years' experience in the pharmaceutical and medical device industry. We've developed this webinar as an introductory course to discuss the basic concepts of Good Clinical Practice, or GCP as we affectionately refer to it. Its common elements include the 13 principles as outlined in the ICH guidelines. ICH stands for International Council for Harmonization. It used to be called the International Conference on Harmonization, and last year changed its name to the International Council for Harmonization. They have, in November of last year, updated the ICH guidelines. It does not affect the overall effect of good clinical practice. It does not affect the 13 principles of GCP. It basically is updating from a late 1990s version, where they're now including more of the electronic nature that we work in, and also including risk-based concepts. Those are the principal changes that have been made in the latest edition. These are principles that are used globally for all of our clinical trials, and they're embraced by the FDA in our law for the United States, which is known as the Code of Federal Regulations, or CFR. If the FDA is coming to inspect any study in terms of introducing the IND for a drug or IDE for a device, they will never refer to the ICH guidance. They will always use the law of the United States, which is the Code of Federal Regulations. However, they do embrace the principles that are itemized in the ICH, and if we follow the ICH guidance, we will always be in concert with the FDA regulations. ICH is written in plainer language, easier to understand. So we very often go to the ICH when we have questions, whether they be investigator responsibilities, sponsor responsibilities, or the principles of good clinical practice. By following that, we're going to be following the Code of Federal Regulations. So let's look at the learning objectives that we have set out for today. So our basic learning objectives for today are to talk about the goals of GCP. Why do we need it? What is it? Why do we need it? The second one is to talk about the various regulations that affect us, whether we're working in the drug, the device, or the biologic investigational product field, related to the good clinical practice. ICH is actually written for drugs. The terminology in ICH will be drug language, pharmaceutical language. However, most companies have adapted that for medical device studies as well. We just need to make that transition to some of the terms that will sound very drug-like. We just have to switch over to a device terminology. An example would be the investigational brochure, which is a drug term. Medical device companies tend to use report of prior investigations. So we would just make that switch and then move forward. We're going to talk about the mutual accountability and the interrelationship and responsibilities of each of the stakeholders, those stakeholders being the sponsor, the investigator, the IRB, or Ethics Committee in International Waters, and the regulatory authority, which for us would be the FDA. The foreign regulatory authorities also follow ICH. ICH is the law in Europe and in Japan, in addition to many of their country regulations. We're going to learn to apply those 13 principles of ICH from the E6, the clinical practice section, and how to make those work for us in our research studies to ensure compliance to the regulations. But this is going to involve us when we talk about the principles and where we're coming from. So the definition here, definition for good clinical practice, is it's a standard for everything that we do. It's a standard for the design of the study. It's a standard for how we conduct the study, the performance of the study, the monitoring of the study, the auditing of the study, the recording of the data from the study, how we analyze the data, that's our statistical analysis, and how we report those clinical trials. That's our medical writing staff. This provides assurance that the data and the reported results are credible and they're accurate, and that the rights the integrity, and the confidentiality of all the trial subjects have been protected. This is identified in ICH, in the E6 section, in the glossary, under good clinical practice. It is deeply rooted in our laws and regulations as well, but we do not find a definition of good clinical practice in the Code of Federal Regulations. So again, it's everything we do right from the beginning in designing the study. Why are we choosing double blind? What are we putting into our phase 1 study? What compounds are we putting in our phase 3 as comparison? How are we going to manage that study? How do we select investigators? How do we actually monitor the trial?